So for my next segment, I would like some of our community members to come on up here. We have Charles, Monique, Gwyneth, Mandy, and Nancy. Next section will be about Sally Alice Thompson, 95 years young, an activist, a legend in the community. She's a mother, a wife, an activist, a community organizer. She's walked many walks, and she has been there for the Peace Center. She pretty much paid off the building, the mortgage. As much as I want to talk about Sally Alice Thompson, just, you know, I have the bios here, but who saw the journal article? I sat through the interview. I was just floored, 2 hours. And I don't think, as much as I can say, I would do justice by Sally Alice Thompson. I don't believe I can do justice by her. So, they started the slideshow already. Well, she's a peace activist, a member of the Raging Grannies and Vets for Peace Albuquerque. She took part in the Great American Peace March in 1986 and the U.S.-Soviet International Peace Walk in 1987. How many of you went with her from Albuquerque to Santa Fe? Getting money out of politics, 13 days. Who does that at 91? Who does that? God bless you. That's right. She has gone on dozens of marches against Iraq-Afghan wars. She has protested at President Bush's ranch in Crawford, Texas in 2005. And like I said, she walked in 2014 for campaign finance reform. I think one of the most touching things I heard about Sally Alice was living through the Depression and describing how she lived in poverty. And when she says we were poor, that everybody was poor, but we were the poorest. And continue to describe the life that she lived, the hardship of Americans in Middle America and Missouri and Iowa and the farmland during the Great Depression, and talking about not wearing shoes half in summer and making the shoes last through winter year after year, and when the soles of the shoes were worn out, she'd get piping to kind of cover it. It was humbling, because this is a woman that gave to the Peace Center. She doesn't talk the talk, she just walks the walk as well. So I have to, I can't tell you how inspirational she was and how humbling it is. So as much as we do, can we ever match up to this legend that we have amongst us? So I would like, before I could call Sally Alice up here, I would like the community members, so many of you reached out to me to say a few words to Sally Alice. So I had to limit it to a few, but so many people want to talk about her, and I would imagine we probably journal a lot of the stories. So first we'll start with Charles and Monique.
Hi, everybody. I'm Charles Powell, and I'm past president of the Albuquerque chapter of Veterans for Peace. Our biggest issue nowadays is trying to get pardons for deported veterans. These are non-citizens that served in the U.S. military, and when they got in trouble with the law, they got deported. And we want to bring them home. So if you haven't signed the petition to our governor, please do so. I've known Sally Alice for over 30 years, and I've known her through different capacities. Of course, through the Peace Center, the Albuquerque Center for Peace and Justice, the United Nations Association, the Southwest Organizing Project, and of course, nowadays, it's the Raging Grannies, it's Resist Tuesdays. For a while, Sally Alice and I were in a writing critique group together, You know, she's authored 2 books, one of nonfiction and a later one of fiction, was a novel. But I know her best through Veterans for Peace, which is an organization made up of mostly military veterans that have concluded that weapons and violence is not the answer to the world's problems and is often the cause of the world's problems. Both Sally Alice and her late husband Donald served in the U.S. Navy during World War II, and they were the ones that were instrumental in starting the Albuquerque chapter of Veterans for Peace. Our national organization was founded in 1985, and our local started forming pretty soon after that. Officially, we were chartered in 1991, but I know we were working before that. Don served on the national board of Veterans for Peace, and in 2001, we had the national convention here in Albuquerque, and it was mainly the work of Sally Alice Thompson that pulled that off. I've attended 17 national conventions, and I believe Sally Alice has attended more than that. We changed our name. Originally, the Albuquerque chapter was the General Marshall chapter of Veterans for Peace. But in, I think it was 2011, we agreed to change our name so that we're now proudly known as the Donald and Sally Alice Thompson chapter of Veterans for Peace. So that's just a part of what she has inspired and continues to inspire. And now I'll give Monique a chance.
Good evening, all. Monique Salhab, a member of the local Albuquerque chapter, Veterans for Peace, also a former board member of the National Board of Directors. I met Sally Alice, I honestly have not kept count, but it's several years ago, along with Charles Powell. I had been out of the service and kept bumping into Charles. I sort of felt he was following me around Albuquerque, to be honest, but continued bumping into him, and he finally convinced me to attend a Veterans for Peace chapter meeting, and it truly changed my life in so many ways, meeting both Charles and Sally Alice. They have both taught me a lot about activism, about humility, about being strong, and being perseverant and never standing down in your belief system. Sally Alice also had opened her home to me for a couple of years after my mother passed away, and I got to see her in a different light, and again saw her humor. And one of the things that I do miss is every morning I would be laying in bed and I would hear her practicing her guitar and singing her songs, and it became just something that has stayed with me. And Sally Alice continues to teach me, even though she doesn't realize that, but she has taught me that you can continue to fight for as long as you wish, and you can stay active. And I'm pretty convinced now that she's in her new digs that she'll start up another Raging Granny's crew over there. So I hope to see that. But I will end with thanking her for continuing to be who she is, for giving all that she has given to the community and continues to give and continues to teach. And she's an amazing woman.
Hi, everyone, and hi, Sally Alice. I'm Gwyneth Lewis. Sally Alice was my fourth grade teacher at Montezuma School. We probably know plenty of people who march and organize and work for peace and justice. However, some of them, sometimes it's easy to not be real good at relationships, even if we're good at protesting. So I'm here today to shine a light on the relationships in the way that Sally Alice has had an effect on me and many, many hundreds and thousands of people because of the way that she relates. I remember your classroom, Sally Alice, as a really fun and liberating and great adventurous place to be, to go to school. I loved the stories that she read to us about animals and how she used to have us sing a lot. I loved the tall green poster that she displayed of Machu Picchu so much that I figured out a way 15 years later to go there myself and get to dance on top of the mountains, the Andes. And I just learned recently from her, and I'm so grateful to realize this, though I didn't back in the day, that she never required us, well, she didn't even have us pledge allegiance to the flag. Woo! So that is pretty brave and big of her, if you ask me. But in order to show you here just how life-changing Sally Alice was for her students, including me, I want to help you know a little bit about what I was like before I was in her classroom. Having such a positive place to spend a few hours every school day was a real gift for me because I was extremely shy. I could barely talk to anyone, and I spent much time alone on the playground. I felt very different from others because my mom was one of the few moms at the time who worked outside of home. I wore hand-me-down clothes. I couldn't sing the cool songs from American Bandstand or fit in with the popular culture because we had no TV in our home. My parents each worked for about 50-plus hours every single week, so my job as the elder daughter was to fix most suppers, mop the cement floors, buy the groceries at Girard Market. And I have a hearing disability that I was told was due to the fact that I was crazy. Plus, my dad was strict to the point that he often whipped me with a belt for the slightest infraction. So my self-esteem was sort of in the gutter. On top of that, I'd already had huge losses. My two siblings and I were latchkey kids after my best friend, the 26-year-old caretaker for us three kids when our parents were working all those hours, suddenly disappeared. I didn't even get to say goodbye, didn't know if I'd ever see her again. Sort of like those kids on the border. Not as bad, but a little bit. The first item on my Christmas wish list every year was getting her back. Then every time I made a friend my own age, that friend would move away. So I must have decided, as children do, when something bad happens, that it must be their fault. And that's what I decided. It must be something wrong with me that makes all these people disappear from my life. I tell you all this so that you can understand the depth of the miracle that Sally Alice was for me. Her classroom was a haven for me. The most profound day that year for me was when we were taking our timed multiplication tests. Some of you remember we had to fill in the answers, and then the second we were finished, slap down the paper and put our pencils down. Now, I was probably the most obedient child in fourth grade. That translates as scared. And yet that day I broke the rules. And after I turned over my paper, I kept writing. Mrs. Thompson came over to my desk, and I was really scared. Now I was in for it. She asked me what I was writing, so I handed her the paper. She read, "I wish I were dead. I wish I were dead. I wish I were dead. I wish I were dead," all the way to the bottom of the page. Mrs. Thompson didn't yell. She just quietly took me to the principal's office, and then I knew I was in really big trouble. But instead of reaming me out, she and Miss Reeby, the principal, showed me caring. They then actively became my allies, my friends, my advocates. Mrs. Thompson secretly built up my confidence. My favorite was when she chose me to play the auto harp for the play we put on for our parents, Our Solar System. She encouraged me. She let me know in so many ways that I mattered, that I was safe, that somehow things would get better. And they did. After growing up and moving to college and moving to Philadelphia for 27 years, I returned here about 5 years ago. I'd heard about the Donald and Sally Alice Thompson Peace and Justice Center, so I came there to find Sally Alice. Subsequently, I got the privilege of driving her to the U.S.-Mexico border at Nogales for the School of the Americas Watch events to stand with immigrants and for immigrant justice. When I offered to drive her the first time, I was a bit worried. What if she had a bit of dementia or got ill? I needn't have worried. She is sharp as a tack, as we all know. And she even survived a full blowout that ripped off all of the rubber around the tire nearest to her as we were driving down. Hanging out with her in Nogales is a trip. We keep running into vets for peace who come up to her with big hugs and big thanks for all the ways she's helped keep their chapters flourishing all over the country. They all love her. So, thank you to Samia and to Sally Alice and to all of you for the chance to remind Sally Alice how deeply we respect and appreciate and cherish her. So glad you're in this world, Sally Alice Thompson. I love you.
We saved the best for last with the speakers. Ms. Mandy Pino.
Good evening. I have known Sally Alice since the 1955s. There are many things that I have observed about Sally Alice in all of these years. Number one, she's quiet. Sally Alice is probably the most laid-back person I have ever known. She is modest. She is humble. She is generous. And she is passionate. If you've ever heard Sally Alice get angry, it's because she's passionate. There was one thing she told me one time. She took her son for several weeks travel through Europe. She was the 4th grade teacher in the Albuquerque school system. Her colleague says to her, "Will your husband let you?" Her reply was, "Why should I ever ask him?" So with any further ado, I want to present Sally Alice. Come up here. Thank you. My goodness. You didn't think I would be going to play you all of that stuff, did you? Thank you. Just prove that. Oh my goodness! It's like you. Wow. Can you read this, Mandy? Would you like to read it? Oh, that's lovely. Well, I had a speech prepared.
I had a speech prepared, but I know that you've heard more words than you handle already. And very good speakers ahead of me, so I will just try to give you a skeleton of what I had planned to say. I wanted to first of all thank the organizers of this event, especially for the benefit of the Peace and Justice Center. And secondly, I wanted to acknowledge that there are so many wonderful people in this audience that if I started to enumerate them, I'd be all night. So I won't start because I'd leave out some of the important people. The last thing I wanted to say is that I just read a book that I feel is very important. It's about American exceptionalism by David. All of a sudden, his name, David Swanson. It really made me examine myself because I was surprised at the extent that I have swallowed the propaganda of American exceptionalism and how great we are. We are not great. American exceptionalism leads to two terrible, terrible things. Regime change, where we don't have any business making decisions for other countries, and sanctions, which is destroying the lives of so many people all over the world. It's a tragedy that we put up with because we are good. We have a right to do whatever we want. We have a right to tell the rest of the people what to do, and if they don't do it, we're going to make them suffer for it. And it's disgraceful. Samia asked me to sing a Raging Granny song, so I'll write one that I wrote. I'll sing one that I wrote several years ago, and I hope you find a little hope and inspiration from it. The spirit of love is encircling the earth. It is challenging hate, fear, and greed. It can bring to each person the sense of his worth. It can bring us the peace that we need. Oh, our planet is small. It's our home, our provider, our mother. We must make it a haven, a welcoming place for every faith and every race. When we live together like sisters and brothers, what a wonderful world this will be. The children can play, and the horses can run, and the butterflies flutter safely. Oh, our planet is small. It's our home, our provider, our mother. We must make it a haven, a welcoming place for every faith and every race. When we overcome our hate and our fear and replace them with caring and trust, then our cities will bloom, field and forest will thrive, and the world will be peaceful and just.
Wow. I want you to stand here for a second. Now, the Peace Center got her a little award, a little souvenir for 35 years and a lifetime commitment to peace and justice. Please, again, give me a nice applause for Sally Alice Thompson. I want you to stay put because there's a play that's going to be done by Lisa Lacera and the Little Drummers and Wise Fools production. It is with a youth immigrant from the detention centers. It's a little play, and we have plenty of food. I made sure of it. We're going to feed you good today. So just put a few more minutes. Thank you, Sally Alice Thompson.
Thank you, Sally Alice. Hi, I'm Lisa Lucero with Medicine Drum Circle. Thank you, Sally Alice. I don't know if you remember, I've known you for about 25 years, and I remember talking to you about the Great Peace March. And I'm so inspired by the Great Peace March, and we need to do that again. We need another Great Peace March. Yes, and so just to let you know, we're going to do a little shadow puppet play about the children at the border, in detention, or let's just face it, in concentration camps, interned. And in New Mexico, there's been a few groups that have gone down to the border a couple of times, and it's Wise Fool, Medicine Drum Circle, some other groups like Red Nation has been to the border to Tornillo, where the children have been detained. We've actually been able to see some of the children. And just real quick too, is a new Medicine Drum Circle. We do a vigil for the children every Saturday at 3rd and Lomas. So come out and join us, 3rd and Lomas. And we started this vigil in July. So we went every day straight for 5 months until mid-December. We started to do more actions. And so this is what we were planning to do tonight in Old Town. And that's how it turned out that I called Samia and so she put us in here because we do actions. And so please join us at the Vigil for the Children on Saturdays. Come out at noon. And did you want to say anything else? Oh, yes. So this is Wise Fool and Three Sisters Collective, along with collaboration with Medicine Drum Circle.
Lisa, can I have just 1 minute? You've been so gracious. We forgot some. Please forgive me for this one, but you'll take it over.
I will. It wouldn't be our anniversary celebration without honoring Dory Bunting and Floyd Barrett. And there are so many great people and great volunteers and great activists in this audience. And I agree with Sally Alice, there's too many to mention. Alan Cooper is in the back. Patty Gladstone was our bookkeeper for 20 years, our volunteer bookkeeper. We have so many great activists in this room, and I want to thank you all, but I really, really wanted us to honor Dory and Floyd.
Reflections from a youth migrant detention.
I was afraid I would never see my mother again, and I still haven't. Dixiana of Honduras.
I asked for water. He told me to drink toilet water. The way I have been treated makes me feel like trash. Sergio.
I saw 2 agents tell mothers they were taking their 2 daughters to shower. They never came back.
They would wake us at 3 a.m. I don't know why. I don't know when I will see my mother again. Byron, Honduras.
Conditions are awful. The food tastes like it's gone bad, and there is not nearly enough. Everyone is hungry all the time. Carlos.
I saw my mom chained at her hands, feet, and waist, and I was crying. Alexander, Guatemala.
My son saw someone in chains and asked when we would be in U.S. I didn't have the heart to tell him we were here now. He wouldn't believe it.
They're coming for me. They're coming for me. Will you stand for me? They're coming for me. They're coming for me. Will you protect me? They got me in a cage. I'm locked inside a cage. Where's my mommy? They got me in a cage. I'm locked inside a cage. I'm feeling lonely. Way oh, 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 way oh. I'm calling to you, you and you and you, to stand with me. It's time. I'm calling to you, you and you and you, to stand with me. It's time. Way oh, 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 way oh. They're coming for me. They're coming for me. Will you stand for me? They're coming for me. They're coming for me. Will you protect me?
Hi, it's me again. We neglected to mention another presentation we have to make to our beloved Sally Alice. Chapter 1 is in Portland, Maine, and that was where our Veterans for Peace was founded. That's our birthplace. And this gift is from Chapter 1 in Maine, and we will be presenting this to Sally Alice. We won't ask her to come up again, but we'll take it to her. But I thought you should know that.